All right, what is up, everybody? So it's been a full week since full self-driving was released on the Cybertruck, and since then I put over 500 miles on full self-driving, and I've tested all of the case scenarios that I could possibly find to just stress test the feature of full self-driving. And I have to say, there's still a lot of things that it still needs work on, but I am super impressed. And this video is just to highlight some of the things that it's not so good at, in case there's anybody out there that is going in to buy the product and just, I would recommend just not getting too comfortable with it. There's a lot of things needing work. So some of the things we're going to see in this video is going to be issues with gates for communities. That's one. Two, ignoring signs. It seems like FSD likes to ignore signs a lot. Not sure why. Three, unable to turn left on the green arrow successfully all the time. So it seems to be pretty hit or miss, and I'm not sure what's causing the issues with that. Four, just random points in time where it just gets stuck and you need to press the accelerator a little bit to let it go. Five, sometimes it gets stuck in red blinking lights or yellow blinking lights, or sometimes even just a red light when you have to make a right turn. It's unable to make the right turn and it gets stuck, so you just have to press the accelerator again. Six, I think this one's the biggest one. Sometimes it just doesn't recognize when there is a median in, for example, exiting or entering a parking lot. Sometimes the entrances and the exits are divided by median, or maybe just getting too close to an edge, turning into a street. There's been times when I've just had to disengage. Seven, this one only happened to me once so far, and that's the sun glare. So if the sun is setting and it hits the camera at a certain angle, full self driving will actually just ask you to take over and it'll just give up. And it makes sense. It's a camera. But I feel like that's an issue that needs to be fixed if we're planning on going full robo taxi where nobody is on the driver's seat. Finally, we also have issues with sometimes getting on the shoulder. Full self driving mistakes the shoulder of the street for a lane. So without further ado, let's just dive in and see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so here we are coming up to a gate, and in this scenario, the vehicle actually does see the gate, so it does recognize the gate, but then after the gate opens, it doesn't seem to want to go. So I thought that was odd, but eventually I just had to give it a little bit of a push on the accelerator to get it to go. But this would be something that should be fixed, and I look forward to it actually working, since most of my drives do consist of having gated communities as well. Now this gate over here is one of the ones that pulled down. It just doesn't see it at all. It was actually going to run through it, so I ended up having to disengage and coming to a stop. Over here, exiting a community, it actually wasn't able to find my gate to exit the community, so that was a bit sad. Maybe it was because I was leaving my driveway, so I'm not sure. Maybe if I would have been on the street, it might have found it. But then it was stuck and it didn't get out of it. And I gave it enough time to try to get out as well. All right, so here it just completely ignores the no U-turn sign. I let it do it, and I'm not sure why it did that. Maybe it's just because it's common for people to do that. I'm assuming that when it does ignore a sign, it's because most often people just ignore it, and that's just data that Tesla has. Over here, it ignores a stop sign, which that stop sign doesn't make sense of why it's even there. So it does make sense to ignore it. And I'm assuming everybody ignores it. I would have ignored it as well. It's pretty cool if that's the reason. Over here, it ignores the sign that is a one-way. This is a roundabout, and it actually just decided to go left. And you can't see it here, but it is a green arrow. It was turning yellow, and then it got stuck, and it didn't know what to do. And this is often, it happens. It's happened a couple times, so it should be fixed hopefully on the next update. So green left arrows, it seems to have a lot of issues with. This right here is another example of a green left arrow. It did not turn yellow. The car just freaked out and I had to take over. There was traffic behind me. Now the car also just doesn't go sometimes for, I'm not sure what reason. Maybe it's just something throws it off. Here we have a golf cart on the right, which I'm assuming that's why it got stuck. So it was going on its own up until this point right here, and then it just stops. And I gave it enough time to see if it would just continue. It never did. So then I ended up having to press the accelerator to get it to go again. Over here, it was leaving a parking spot, and I wanted to see if it would actually just leave the parking spot. Eventually, it comes up to this Ford, and it just doesn't go after that. It just gets stuck, and then I ended up having to press the accelerator again to push it to go. So over here, I gave it enough time, and eventually it just never took the shot. And I felt like I gave it plenty of time to go. So I ended up having to press the accelerator, and that's why it went. Over here, and it was never the light's red, and it can turn on red. There is no sign that says no turn on red. I'm not sure why it wasn't turning. I thought it was because of the pedestrians, but then they had a lot of gaps, and eventually the light turned green, and it still wasn't going. So over here, the light is green, those pedestrians go, and the truck doesn't seem to even move forward a little bit. So I ended up just having to press the accelerator again to have it continue. So minor things, nothing crazy. Over here, everything was good up until this point. The light is a blinking red, and it doesn't seem to read it. I know you can't see it from this point of view, but the light was blinking red. I gave it plenty of time, and it just wasn't going. It had plenty of gaps to go. Eventually, I ended up having to press the accelerator just to get it to continue. And as you can see on the screen, it sees a red and it does blink, but I don't think it knows how to handle this situation. Maybe it's just in this intersection, but I'm not sure if it would do it in a different one since I haven't been able to test it in a different location. And as you can tell now there is traffic, so now it can't go. But then eventually some gaps open up and I had people behind me, so I ended up having to press the accelerator. Otherwise we would just not move at any point. So right there, I pressed the accelerator and then it decided to go after I gave it a little push. And it did everything else perfectly. So we end up having a gap on the left and the right, and and you can probably see my foot when I start pressing the accelerator right up there. Now it didn't run into that median, which is good. But speaking of medians, it does have problems with the edges. So sidewalks over here, it disengages completely. It just couldn't turn in. It gets freaked out by medians. Over here is another example when it turns right into a shopping center. It just goes directly into the median, and then I had to disengage again. Those are big issues if we're trying to get to full-scale robotaxi. Another problem is it confuses this right shoulder as a lane, and yeah, I just had to disengage completely, and it actually did this at a different time whenever there was a cop on that lane, so it's happened more than once. Here is the sun glare that I was talking about earlier, and over here you can see that it asked me to just take over completely, and as you can tell with the GoPro that we have, it actually is very hard to see, and that's expected considering we're using cameras. All right, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and if you have any ideas for any future videos, just let me know.